This is Backstory, the podcast powered by the newsroom of the Ithaca Voice. I'm Megan Zerez. The Commons is the heart of downtown Ithaca, but some say that heartbeat is a little irregular. It's a common complaint from some business owners and visitors, but not everyone agrees. Now there's new data on the health of the Commons. That's this week on Backstory, after a quick break.
Backstory is supported by Cayuga Health and Arnott Health, members of Centralis Health, connecting our communities with accessible, compassionate care that's built around you. From same-day appointments to long-term wellness support, Centralis Health helps you stay healthy and informed. Learn more at centralishealth.org.
I'm Megan Zerez. This is Backstory. The Downtown Ithaca Alliance, the main organization representing businesses downtown, recently came out with a multi-year study on the health of the Commons. My colleague Hailea Potter did a deep dive into that study and is here to break it all down for us. And for the very first time on the podcast, too, I might add. Hailea, how are you doing?
I'm good, Megan. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so Hailea, can you tell me about this study?
Yeah, so the study is called the Citywide Retail Market Study and Strategy. It was commissioned by the Downtown Ithaca Alliance, or the DIA, in 2023, and it was released in March.
And it looked at like three different main things.
Yeah, so it looked at foot traffic, vacancy rate, and shopper perception were the main things.
And the consultant that they hired was looking at data from a couple of different periods of time, right?
Yeah, so MJB consultants were the consultants hired by the Downtown Ithaca Alliance, the DIA. That's who commissioned the study, and the city. And some of that data was collected in 2024 and 2025, and that was compared to pre-pandemic data, so 2018, 2019, around then.
Gotcha. Okay. So just like briefly, like me just looking briefly at that data, it seems to suggest that foot traffic has at least recovered from this big old dip that we called the pandemic. Does that back up what business owners are saying? You talked to quite a few business owners.
Yeah, so business owners are saying that's not really the reality of what they're seeing day to day isn't reflected in the data from the study about the foot traffic. So in 2024, they surpassed pre-pandemic levels for footfall, but it went back down a little bit in 2025, going lower than pre-pandemic of like 2019.
Gotcha.
So when I was talking to businesses, a lot of them were saying that when there's festivals, it's great, but outside of that, it's been pretty desolate for them. And it's important to note, too, that the DIA also wanted to stress that that foot traffic in the Commons is still higher than it is everywhere else in the area.
And also, I mean, as the weather warms up, things also sort of change seasonally. Obviously, like people are not trying to be... I definitely see more people out now that there's, you know, the trees are starting to have leaves and stuff like that.
Yeah. Also, it's just I just wanted to mention that the study was finalized at the end of 2025. So some of that final year-end data isn't included in it.
I see.
So some things have changed and adjusted since then.
You also found that foot traffic has recovered from the lowest lows of the pandemic, but you also found that people may be spending their time on the Commons slightly differently.
Yeah, so they referred to that as dwell time in the report. So that's dropped by 18 minutes since before the pandemic. So in speaking to businesses, a lot of them were saying it's really an in and out when they are getting people to come to the stores.
And I imagine that if people are spending a little bit less time being on the Commons, they may not be buying as many things, or they may not have as many opportunities to find that perfect delightful fountain pen or organic lunchbox or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So what about the people who are visitors, not business owners? So what did they have to say?
71% of survey respondents visitors to the Commons who were polled as part of the study rated downtown as a, quote, poor or fair place to shop. But they didn't say exactly who was surveyed in that, whether that was tourists, downtown residents, or people more on the outside areas of Ithaca. And most of those people who responded said they hadn't visited for at least a month.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Let's stick on that topic of these sort of different groups of people who are interacting with the Commons. Different people maybe have different perceptions and different ways that they use the Commons.
It definitely seems like the perception is more negative with locals. And a lot of what locals were saying to me is that the Commons has kind of just turned into catering more to tourists rather than them. And that was a big complaint. And then when you talk about that, with locals not really feeling like it's a place for them to go hang out, again, that was also brought up in the report, is the lack of places to socialize and a lack of things to do outside of restaurants and shopping.
Right. I mean, I think even within locals, people who don't necessarily live in downtown Ithaca, but live in maybe what you might call the suburbs if we were a larger place, like people in Lansing, people in Cayuga Heights, people who aren't necessarily down here all the time, they think of the Commons slightly differently from maybe people who are down here more often, if they're, whether a business owner or somebody who lives just downtown Ithaca.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm from Binghamton, which isn't that far away, and for us, like, it's a big fun trip to go to the Commons, and it's like a fun day trip, and people drive all the way up to do that, and so there definitely is that tourist aspect for sure.
Yeah, like it's like the grass is sort of always greener or browner, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to vacancy rate. That's another big thing that the study looked at. I have lived in Ithaca for about 5 years now, and I just, even in that time, even honestly, just in the last year, I can think of plenty of businesses that have closed and that I'm still mourning. But it also seems that there are a lot of new places that have come just to take those places' spots. What did the report show? Do we have an idea of how that vacancy rate has changed in, recent years?
Yeah, so the report said that at the time that the Commons had a vacancy rate of roughly 16%.
That's current to, I think, not quite the end of 2025, but like...
Well, when I talked to the DIA, they had said that vacancy rate is now closer to 11%.
Gotcha.
So there are 9 businesses who have recently opened in the downtown area or announced their openings. But then again, you have businesses who have closed recently or announced their closure. I mean, I spoke to the Sunny Days of Ithaca, the souvenir shop in the Commons, and they have recently announced that they will be closing in September.
Right, and they're a long-standing, I mean, they've been there for years.
Yeah.
That store, yeah.
And I mean, I also spoke to Ashley Cake, the former owner of the Watershed and the Downstairs, which...
That was one of the ones that I'm mourning.
Yeah, which that closed in December. And, she was one of the people who said that the Commons is starting to cater more to tourists than locals, and the lack of affordable places to just go hang out with your friends.
Yeah. But, you also spoke to somebody who had recently opened up shop on the Commons. Tell me about her.
Yeah, so I spoke to Heidi Brown, the owner of Feel Goods, which is a clothing store and a maker space that just recently set up shop in the Commons. And Heidi had actually moved to the Commons from her old location, which was by the inlet. And she was one of the people who said to have a business in Ithaca, like, the Commons is where you need to go. She said that if they stayed in that area that they were, that they would have had to close. There was not enough foot traffic in that area. So, I mean, when you compare it to that, there are these concerns about foot traffic with these business owners, but comparing it to other areas in the Ithaca area, it still is a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if you've ever been by where Field Goods used to be, but it's on a very, very busy road. It doesn't feel safe to walk there. Parking's a little difficult over there, and it's a very different sort of feel from where the Commons is right now.
Yeah. And so you mentioned just talking about parking. Parking was another thing that was brought up a bit in the report, and talking to businesses. Everybody had something to say about parking and parking concerns.
Oh, yeah. People love to talk about parking.
Oh, yeah. So, and I mean, especially you have the Seneca Street garage and what's currently going on with that. I mean, that's currently closed.
Yep.
Because of safety concerns.
It's falling down.
It's falling down.
We can say it.
It's crumbling. So, I mean, that has made that parking situation more difficult. And part of the study was talking about the parking and that maybe being a deterrent to people.
Yeah.
And so in talking to business owners, that's just part of being a downtown, unfortunately, is parking issues and having to walk in or use a parking garage. That's just inherently part of what it is to be a city. So
yeah, I mean, and I can definitely see, I know it's a deterrent for people who cannot walk there or cannot bike there or can't take the bus. Like, it's always just a to-do. Well, okay, to just shift back to the vacancies thing, there is one vacancy in particular that multiple people in your story mentioned, and that would be the really big retail space on the ground floor of a very big building on the Commons. Most of it is luxury apartments called Herald's Square. So tell me about that very vacant, very large space.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very large space. It's about 14,000 square feet, which is basically the size of a large drugstore or small grocery store. And a lot of the businesses I spoke to just kept saying when they hear from customers, people will say, I didn't even know you were here, because they just said that. And that was specifically like Angry Mom Records was one of those who was like, you have customers who don't even know we're there.
People on the western side of the Commons.
They will see Herald Square and they'll just, assume that the Commons is done and won't go any farther and just turn back around. So that was something that was definitely brought up.
Herald Square, that space has been vacant for years, since that building existed in its current form. And I've always wondered why they couldn't seem to rent that out. And so you found out. You spoke to the developers and sort of found out more about that. What'd you find out?
Yeah, so developer David Lubin said basically they've been stood up before by potential tenants. I mean, one time there was a restaurant where he said the people that they made an agreement with didn't end up following through. And he said businesses do want to be downtown and have expressed interest, but COVID has really changed things.
Right. Herald Square also has, I think, what they describe as boutique office space on their website. And yeah, I mean, just fewer places are having physical offices, whether in Ithaca or a bigger city or whatever. So.
Yeah, people are working from home.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Lubin and the other owners of Herald Square do have an idea that they've been trying to pitch. We don't know the success of it. We don't know, but tell me more about that idea that they have.
The owners of Herald Square have been pushing really hard to bring the new Center of Government building to Herald Square.
And just to cut in really quickly, the Center of Government is this project that the county has had in the works, or they've been discussing it for over 10 years. And it's this plan to bring all of these county departments and offices, like the tax assessment office and the Office of the Aging and maybe the Board of Elections, bring them all together into one big county government mega complex thing. And currently, the plans for that are to build a brand new building right off of DeWitt Park. So that is what the Center of Government project is. But
yes, and that's something that Lubin has reached out to the county legislature several times and said that the county should move all of its offices to the vacant space in that building.
Instead of building that brand new building.
Yes, yeah. And he's said that doing so would save the county a lot of money. But that's not something that county legislators have really seemed to be convinced by.
You spoke to County Legislator Shauna Black. What did she say?
Shauna Black said that they have explored the idea of Herald Square, but ultimately decided it was not a good fit. I mean, the primary concern was accessibility for those that struggle with mobility issues. She said that staff were also worried about window or daylight access. And also they were very concerned with different arrangements and ownership proposals that they had received. It said the information wasn't very consistent. She also added that the numbers were actually very comparable. So, I mean, it is interesting.
But yeah, interesting. Doesn't sound like it's necessarily going anywhere anytime soon, but this seems like a okay place to take a really quick break. When we get back, we will delve into some of the public's perceptions of the Commons, particularly around crime and safety. That's coming up next on Backstory. Stay with us.
Independent journalism isn't guaranteed. It's built. Join the readers who power the Ithaca Voice and make a gift today at ithacavoice.org.
I'm Megan Zerez. You're listening to Backstory. I'm here again with my colleague Hailea Potter, talking about downtown Ithaca and the Commons. I think, Hailea, there's this elephant in the room that we really need to address, and that is the Asteri building. For people who don't know, it's got 181 units. 40 of those were meant to be supportive housing for people who are transitioning out of homelessness, and I think those are the units that most people sort of glom onto when they think about this building. But since it opened in the summer of 2024, it's been a pretty rocky situation. The cops, the fire department, first responders are constantly out there all the time. There's a lot of allegations of mismanagement, that it's not being kept very clean. People aren't getting the services that they need. And because it's just right in the middle of downtown, when somebody has a crisis, it's kind of just very, very much front and center. And it's certainly changing the perception of the way that people think about the Commons.
The Asteri building was something that was brought up by pretty much every single person I talked to.
Wow.
You know, it's definitely top of mind for people. And at least for the business owners, a lot of what they were saying was that they've been disappointed with how it's turned out. They feel for the people in that situation, but they're definitely an effect of it is the surrounding areas, you know, and the businesses saying that they're kind of getting lumped into a perception that things are not safe downtown. And I mean, that differs from their reality. These are business owners who say they're downtown every day and they feel safe. But, you know, Asteri is in the headlines so much, and that's something that seems to have translated.
I think it's really interesting that you're talking about the perception of the Commons as maybe not the safest place. You also talked to Ithaca Police Chief Thomas Kelly about how he thinks about the safety of the Commons and how Asteri factors into that. What did he say?
Yeah, so overall, Chief Kelly really wanted to stress that crime in the area has declined despite an increase in calls. So
more people are calling.
Yeah, more people are calling, and that's something that Chief Kelly said is because they've built up trust and people are more likely to call.
Gotcha.
And so I believe he said last summer they had increased the enforcement in the area, and he said that was something that built up more trust, and they tackled a lot of quality of life issues.
I see. So when you're talking about quality of life issues, what are the things that you're talking about?
Things on the ground, like picking up dog poop and making sure people aren't like roller skating through, or like general like nuisance or noise complaints and things like that. I mean, that's something, again, that Chief Kelly stressed was it's a lot more of those than it is violent crime.
I see. Okay.
And to clarify, when you look at the crime dashboard and the crime numbers, specifically for the Commons, it has gone down. But when you look at Asteri is separately listed in the community dashboard, and that police responded to calls specifically to that building more than 1,300 times just last year.
Yeah, and I just want to stress how big of a difference them breaking out the data in that way makes.
Yeah, so in 2023, which was before Asteria opened, officers had responded about 160 times to the Commons area. In 2024, the number of calls more than tripled, and then it went down a bit last year, but separating Commons versus Asteria definitely makes a big difference. So, and when you talk about that, some businesses have fought for the return of an assigned officer to the Commons, and it's been a long time since that was a thing for the Ithaca Police Department.
On a consistent basis.
Yeah. So like an assigned officer pretty much patrolling daily the Commons. So Chief Kelly had said that was before his time when that was in place, and it's been a priority for the department, but staffing issues have kind of gotten in the way of that. But that's something that businesses have said, they could at least fight the perception, having just somebody there to make people feel more safe. Even, again, if businesses say that they think it is safe, but that could help that perception.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I know you can change a lot of things, but opinions and minds and perceptions are some of the hardest to change. Maybe the final thing we want to talk about here, with this study, there are a number of recommendations, a lot of which the Downtown Ithaca Alliance said has since been, already implemented. But there is always concern about competitors. And one of the big competitors people may know is a certain very, very large, in-progress, mixed-use development up on South Hill called Southworks.
Yeah, Southworks was something that was put in the report that, in talking to the DIA, they were a little nervous about putting that in the report.
Wow.
And potentially fueling that fire that there might be a rival downtown. But, in talking with businesses, a lot of what they were saying was not necessarily a rival downtown, but like a complementary, a second downtown. Not as much competing. Maybe it could be, the Commons more focused for tourists, and then Southworks more of a local downtown. That's something that they could see, but, if for a lot of these businesses it's not a pressing issue. They're not super worried about it right now. They have bigger things going on in the day-to-day, but it is something down the line that is kind of on their radar.
And we will continue to look at that as that development continues to proceed down the line and the Commons proceeds to do whatever it's going to do. But for the meantime, thanks so much for talking to me. It was a great time. Great debut on the podcast.
Yes, thank you, Megan.
You're listening to Backstory. I'm Megan Zerez. Here's some of the other stories we've been working on. On Saturday evening, 19-year-old Brianne Keene was fatally stabbed at her apartment in Cayuga Heights. Police have one suspect in custody, 20-year-old Damian Stewart. Keene was a senior at Lehman Alternative Community School. She was set to graduate next month. Last week, voters across Tompkins County also elected new school board members and passed budgets in all 6 local school districts. Voters in the Ithaca City School District also approved a plan to borrow up to about $44 million to fund capital projects, including new roofs for 3 schools. And on Friday, the murder trial of 26-year-old Atreo Massaline ended in a mistrial. The jury was unable to reach a verdict on the charge of second-degree murder. Massaline admitted to fatally stabbing 54-year-old Edward Warren last summer. Witnesses testified that Warren had threatened Massaline's fiancée, shouted racist and misogynist slurs at her. Warren is white. Both Massaline and his fiancée are black. His attorney argued that he acted in self-defense. Prosecutors say they will retry the murder charge, and the earliest that could happen is in September. The city of Ithaca had a plan to bypass NYSEG and purchase greener energy on the open market, and hopefully save some residents some money. The plan was what was known as a community choice aggregation program, but now, after state regulators stepped in with some new rules, that initiative is on pause before it could even begin. As always, you can read more about these stories and find others online at ithacavoice.org. You've been listening to Backstory, the podcast powered by the newsroom of the Ithaca Voice. Jimmy Jordan is our managing editor. Ron Van Ormer is our executive director. Our photographer is Casey Martin. Our reporters are Fernando Figueroa, Haley Potter, and me, Megan Zerez. That's it for this week. We'll see you around out there.
(2018-2019).
What is going on? Was that you? No. Okay.
I don't know.
Can we do that one more time? Yeah. Sorry.